I hit the mic. Sorry about that. But we always do this for movies when they first come out, right? We always give our talk. Let's fix the camera a little bit because it looks like it's like cutting me off a little bit. But if you're new to the channel, really would love it if you subscribe, hit that notification bell. 35,000 subscribers, our big goal. That was our goal like in July. We're so close to it, but really want to hit that before the end of August. Now, let's fix the camera a little bit more because now I feel like it's too much headspace at the top, right? But the movie of the week, the movie of August right now is Alien Romulus. It was Trap a couple of weeks ago, and now it's Alien Romulus, and here we are discussing yet again a movie that is very divisive, honestly. If you've seen anywhere on the internet and all of that, people seem to either be hating it, loving it, and some people just didn't care for it apparently, and some people still are going to go watch it. This video, we're talking spoilers. It's going to be spoilers all over the chat, so don't come in here if you haven't seen the movie and don't want spoilers. Some people want spoilers, and that's totally cool too. I understand that. I have some friends that also are like that don't care about spoilers at all, and they want to know what happens. But I am here just to talk about the movie. This is kind of when I usually do this when I did it for Long Legs, is I just talk a little bit about the movie. I talk about my thoughts on it, and I'll dive into spoilers and what I thought about all of that as well. And that's pretty much how these always work for me, is just I just go on and talk and let the chat talk as well if they want to, and just respond back and forth. And people in the chat talk to each other sometimes and don't even talk to me. That's how it happened with Long Legs. It was a very interesting discussion. But Alien Romulus, yeah, it is a film that is going crazy on the internet right now for various reasons. Some people didn't like the whole thing with Ian Holmes' character, and totally valid. Every single point I think that I've seen is valid. For me, it is a top Alien film. I really enjoyed it a lot. Joseph Russ says personally it is number 4. So for me, I think it definitely, I did a list like coming out of it, and I think I was just hyped from it, and I put it like a number 3. But I definitely do see Romulus being top 4 for me as well. No doubt about that. I was very excited when I first heard about the film. I thought that Fede Alvarez was doing a great job when he came on board as director. I enjoyed his Evil Dead film. I enjoyed what he did with Don't Breathe. And for the most part, what he did with the Dragon, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, I thought was okay. I didn't think it was amazing or anything like that. I still think David Fincher was the one that should have handled anything that came after that. But I still think that Fede has a pretty distinct vision and look when it comes to his films. So I was excited to hear his name being thrown into the ring for Alien Romulus all those years ago. So I'm just going to check my audio real quick, make sure everything's sounding good, y'all. Vision and look when it comes to his films. So yeah, it's sounding good, y'all. And I was excited. So when I heard that he was attached to the films and he was going to be bringing a new vision forth, I was game. I was ready. Then I heard that Ridley Scott and James Cameron had seen the film, pretty much gave Fede some notes, but for the most part, it sounded like it was good feedback. Some even said it was a stamp of approval from both directors. Of course, Ridley Scott did Alien, and James Cameron did Aliens, 2 films that are highly, highly lauded for their time and still today, and are very much so a blueprint for so many movies that we have still coming out now. So Alien Romulus is set between Alien and Aliens, which I thought was an interesting take right there. I really did think that there was going to be more of a connection for sure when I first heard about the film than any other of the previous films, like Prometheus and Covenant, of course, being more prequels than anything, and Prometheus, of course, taking a wild direction. And I was just like, oh, okay. So Joseph Russ says Alien, Aliens, Prometheus, Romulus. Yeah, I know Prometheus, anytime you put it in the top 5, people get pissed. People got pissed at me when I had it in the top, like the list. But I really love that movie. I think Prometheus does so many great things when it comes to the Alien franchise and sci-fi in general. It's just such an interesting movie, what Ridley Scott was trying to do with it. And the whole thing about the engineers was something that completely blew my mind when I first saw that movie in theaters over 10 years ago. And I was just like, what? Because I did not expect that at all. I was thinking we were going to watch like something else, like an alien film, xenomorphs and all that. But Ridley Scott threw a curveball, and I really love that film a lot. I think it is such a very interesting story, and I would love to see Ridley Scott finish that trilogy, I feel, with Prometheus and Covenant. But with Romulus here, I'm excited to see where the future of Alien goes now, especially after that third act, because Fed is really showing us that he has some more up his sleeve, and I'm excited to see what that would be, right? I think that he definitely has an interesting take and vision where he wants to go with the Alien franchise, and I'm game for it if he wants to take it there, because that last act. So let's do a little bit of a recap here. We had Isabella Merced's character of Kay be pregnant at the beginning of Alien Romulus, and that's always a thing with the Alien films. There's always some sort of birth or something happening, which I think is a very big part of the lore and all that. Isabella Merced's character of Kay was pregnant at the time, and then she took the black goo that the scientists on the Romulus were like testing and all of that, which was reminiscent of the black goo that we had seen in Prometheus. She took that because she was severely injured and thought that would help her get a little better and move around. She didn't want to become prey to the xenomorphs or the facehuggers, so she needed that extra boost. And we see her take that black goo. Seems okay, everything's going to be right. But we know as the audience, we had seen earlier that the experiment that they had done on the rat didn't go that well. And we saw the rat immediately turn into some monster, alien, whatever. So when the ending finally comes and we think they're saved, and of course at the end we just have Rain, we have Andy and Kay just surviving, and they're going into their cryo chambers to go to Ivaga, and then out of nowhere, Kay's cryo chamber starts glitching and starts saying there's something wrong. When they pull her out of it, she's already giving birth. She wasn't ready to give birth at all at the beginning of this film because only Ray knew she was pregnant, so there wasn't a belly or anything. But no, when Rain pops her out of the cryo chamber, belly and all is popping, and she's giving birth to something, and it's like a alien egg that comes out of her with a human's face, almost like an engineer too, somebody pointed out, which is true. I am watching this movie again this weekend, so I would definitely pick up some more on things and try to make a theory video on what could happen next. That's going to be out on Monday, so make sure y'all subscribe for that because that's going to be fun talking about it. But we then see this engineered, tall, lanky xenomorph thing come out of her, and I was just like, are we about to get some hybrids, chimeras of sorts? I thought that would definitely be interesting for sure. So Bones says, I've only seen the first Alien and Romulus. I've seen AVP 1 and 2, but I see those as separate. Loving Alien movies so far. Yeah, Aliens franchise definitely has a lot of weird directions they go into, and it's always fun. Aliens is really different from Alien. Prometheus is very different from Alien and Aliens, and they're all great. So yeah, I definitely think you got a lot of great movies you still got to watch. And Alien vs. Predator, I had seen on Deadline, they reported that Fede Alvarez would want to do an Alien vs. Predator with the director of Prey, Dan Trachtenberg, and I'm game for that. I'm game to see more Alien vs. Predator if they can get that done. We have somebody saying, so is that creature a hybrid or of engineers, xenomorph, and humans? Or so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that this is going to be like a new species of sorts where you have all of these combined, the engineers, the xenomorphs, humans, and whatever else they were experimenting on. I feel like that's a direction maybe we could see Fede take it into, which I would be open to seeing that because that thing was insane looking. It reminded me of like something you would see in Dead Space, which I've said I want Fede to do a Dead Space movie. That would be insane. So somebody, Joseph says, Fede's take was great. As much as I love the film, I hope that this film does not get a sequel. I think if the film gets a sequel and like Covenant, another film, but not a sequel. So yeah, I'm curious to see if they do give Fede the opportunity to do another sequel. Will he take that, or will he just be there more as a creative and helping out with what comes next? A lot of people do want the next film to be completely different too. I'm seeing a lot of people didn't like that it felt reminiscent to the other Alien films, which I was very interested in hearing that because when Prometheus came out, a lot of people were mad that it was very different from the other Alien films. And Romulus comes out and people are mad that it's very similar. So I'm curious to see what the studio thinks now is going to be the case. Yeah, I had seen that. I was actually going to do a video on the whole Alien versus Predator thing that came out today where Feta says he would want to do another Alien versus Predator movie in the future. I'm going to do a video on that tomorrow and discuss what could possibly that look like and where they could take it. So interesting things right there. Yeah, definitely. That's what I was thinking too when she said she was pregnant, because that's something that we always see come about during the other Alien films. Is birth is a huge thing in those stories. So yeah, when Kay was saying she was pregnant, I also was thinking it's not going to be good, especially thinking back of other films in the franchise with Prometheus, especially that birth scene and all that. It definitely was something that got me thinking for sure. But I really did like the portrayal of synthetics in this. I know we had a great portrayal with Fassbender in Prometheus. I can't even talk, y'all. Prometheus, and also with Covenant. David the Robot was definitely a very interesting character throughout that whole area that they did with the franchise then. And I thought that Andy, who was played by David Johnson, did an amazing job as well. And David Johnson really is such a great actor. If you haven't seen a film called Ride Lane, really recommend it, especially if you like rom-coms and all that. He stars in that, and it was one of my favorite movies last year. I felt like it really went under the radar, and I hope that more people find his work now after Romulus, because he was definitely one of my favorite parts about the film. Him and Kaylee Spaney just had a great performance together, the chemistry and everything. Like, you really felt the relationship was real, and it was just so great to see that sort of relationship, which is something that I would want to see them explore more in the Alien franchise, is the synthetics and all of that, because I feel like there's something interesting there, right? How some of them are more about just the company and corporate and things like that, but then there's others like Andy who are more like family and all that. Like, I think that's an interesting thing they could approach in future Alien films, is more of the synthetics and how they really feel about everything here. Yeah, David Johnson really did a great job. Yeah, Andy, by the end, I really love when he delivered his lines for sure. Yeah, the run line, like, we've seen that and heard that throughout the teaser so many times, but that scene was just so great, honestly. Really had me on the edge of my seat for sure. Yeah, they are evolved humans, I believe, the engineers, or as they created the humans and the xenomorphs, and then we saw that David, the android, wanted to play basically like an engineer themselves and create their own life as well. I thought that was interesting for sure. But a lot of these scenes were great also because I had read, and I'm doing a video on this as well tomorrow, that Fede Alvarez really got inspired by Alien Isolation. I don't know if anybody's ever played that game, but it was a game that came out like years ago where you basically play as somebody close to Ripley. I won't give too many spoilers about that game if anybody wants to check it out. But it had this distinctness to it where it felt like a Resident Evil game of sorts, but in space with the xenomorph. And I am going to try and do a Let's Play for it over the week because, like, I just got re-inspired to check it out again. But it is definitely exciting to hear that Fede got excited playing that game, that he wanted to sort of bring it into the big screen. And he said in the game Alien Isolation, there are scenes or levels when you know things are going to get bad because there is a payphone that is there for you to save. And in video games, you know, when you got to save somewhere and it shows up, you know that there's something big and bad waiting for you. And so he said that in the movie itself, he added those payphones. So I'm going to rewatch it over the weekend, and I'm going to be looking out for those payphones because apparently they were added when things were going to get bad. And I thought that's just an interesting Easter egg to add to a film like in Romulus, because you see that he is not just taking the lore and the inspiration from the films, but also from other media in the whole franchise, like the video games. And I'm curious to see if there's things from the comics as well, because people have told me the comics are really good. So Joseph Russ says, I'm glad that they made the facehugger so scary in this. Typically, they don't play such a large role. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. You usually see them for a little bit, and then they just kind of like go away, and then it's just the xenomorph. Here they were pretty much all the way up until the end, which I did like as well. And they were like the whole marketing as well from the beginning, because the poster, one of the main posters, is the one with Navarro with the face hugger on her face. And I thought that that definitely added a bigger like scare to the face huggers, right? Like, how do you combat these things that are just so agile? They're small, they can go in the water, they're swimming, And that scene when the face huggers first come out and Andy needs to reboot, I was just like, I thought that was it for those two characters. I didn't think Andy was gonna come back in time, and it was definitely like, how do you even survive like a face hugger like that as well? Because once they got latched onto you, and then they're pretty much using you to harvest their eggs and all that, that's definitely a way just you're done. You're done after that. But I really did enjoy the film. A lot of things were things I really liked a lot. One of the things that I'm seeing is that so Tyler says, am I the only one that thinks that the architecture of this movie would have fit a David story perfectly? New here, by the way. Great to have you here, Tyler, and appreciate that. But yeah, I definitely could see that fitting David as well, especially how he was in Prometheus and all of that. And I definitely was interested in seeing if that was ever a conversation that anybody had when they were making the film, to include David as the android in here as well. Because I think that David's story was a thing that was interesting in Prometheus, and I know Ridley Scott helped to produce this film as well, so I'm just curious to know that too, if they were ever planning to introduce David at some point. But I do wonder too, like Joseph says, if that's just something they're going to keep separate, because I wonder if Ridley Scott would ever want to revisit the Prometheus trilogy and all of that in the future and finish that story, because apparently that was supposed to be a trilogy of sorts, but I don't know if that's true or not. But I'm curious to see if there's something else that wanted to be included. Yeah, the black goo definitely took me back to Prometheus and Covenant and all of that, and it got me excited thinking about where they want to take it next, because I think Fede really showed at the end that there's a ton of ideas of where the series could go after this one. And he did talk to I believe during I almost got like all confused here, but I had seen the headline earlier before I went live, as was from Deadline, that Fede was trying to maybe make an Alien versus Predator, which would be separate, I believe, from this. And I wonder how all of that would work out, right? There's just so many things in this Alien franchise that were happening, and now that we have the first movie to sort of get it off and launching, and we did have the Predator movie with Prey, I'm curious to see what they want to do with all of these things in the near future for sure. So very excited to talk more of that as well. Yeah, I'm curious to see what the Prometheus trilogy would look like once it was finished. What other ideas was Ridley Scott trying to throw into this whole lore that is the Aliens franchise? Yeah, I think that that could definitely be something that we see in the prequel comic as well. So, like, they're introducing so many things now, and they're trying to bring this franchise really back now. There's, I think, a new Alien game as well that's supposed to be coming out in December. And, of course, that just definitely gets me more excited to talk more Alien for sure. And I'm going to be revisiting Isolation, because I believe Isolation takes place after Aliens, if I'm not mistaken. So that's one of the ones I want to check out, especially because I feel like they're really trying to flesh it all out, map it out, this really big story for sure. This movie is supposed to open pretty big at the weekend, so I wouldn't be surprised before the end of the year we're going to hear that they're going to be working on another Alien film, and I'm curious to see what that would look like and if Fede would return as director. I think he did a great job when it comes to the horror aspect of it, especially that one jump scare at the end. It was one that really caught me by surprise, and a lot of people in the theater were caught by surprise. It actually had some pretty genuine good scares. And I'm curious to see too, because there is a TV show for Alien that's going to be coming out, I believe, next year. How does that fit into all of this? Is that its own thing? Where's the timeline for it? I'm curious about that. I'm going to be trying to dig up into that and maybe do a video on that next week. That TV show will be coming out, I believe, on FX. So I'm curious to see what that TV show would be. Yeah, with Romulus, where do we go, right? Do we follow Rain and Andy as they go to this new planet, or are they intercepted somehow, or do you just go in a new direction with a new crew and all of that? Like, do people want to see new crews, new situations, all of that, or do you want to follow Rain like we did Ripley with the original films back then? That's the big question I think that the filmmakers are trying to find out right now. Like, would y'all want to see Rain and Andy's adventures, or do you want to see a new crew come in and just build out the world a little more? I'm curious, kind of like taking it more into the synthetics too, because I feel like the synthetics could rise up. And if I'm not mistaken, that was a sort of plot point in the comics that was explored a little bit as well. So I'm curious about all of that as well. Yeah, the tension was really great, especially some of the scenes that they had where it was just quiet, like you were really in space, and then it would just shift. It was just one of the most nerve-wracking movies all year, for sure. Oh yeah, that would be crazy. I think that's coming up soon too, Gamescom, right? I believe it's going to be at the end of the month or next month. That would be crazy. It's the time, right? And they do have Alien Isolation on sale on Steam right now, which is where I'm gonna get it. So they're definitely trying to push the games. I feel more people are gonna revisit them. There's a reason Fed is talking about them too in interviews he's doing for this movie. This is really gonna ignite all of the Alien like media. I feel, because I feel like we're gonna hear more about the comics as well. Because now Marvel is doing the comics, and I'm curious to see what they want to do with that also, because it really feels like they are really bringing it all together here right now, and I'm down for what they want to do with Alien Romulus next. I think that the ending does really like give you so many possibilities they can go with. Like, do Rain and Andy get the treatment that Ripley did, where we follow them on the next film, or do they go into a new direction where we see a whole new cast and crew? I believe that before they were doing Romulus, they wanted to do a film where they were going to follow Ripley again. Like, what would y'all think about that if we shift gears and follow Ripley now instead? Like, I'm curious. What do y'all think about that? Rain and Andy, Ripley, or a whole new crew, or a mix of all of that? Like, what would be the possibilities there? Because before Romulus, that was the plan, I believe, to follow Ripley and continue on the stories we've seen before. So let me see if I can find that exact thing, because I remember reading that correctly, that they wanted to follow Ripley on a new adventure. So let's see if I can find that. So apparently, so the first thing I see is that Sigourney Weaver is done playing Ripley, according to this article from Deadline. But I believe that that was something they wanted to do before. And that was a film I think that Neil Blomkamp was going to go out and do, which is the director of District 9. So, yeah. Let me see if I can find that whole article or story right there. Let's see. So Neil Blomkamp was going to direct the film Alien before Fede Alvarez took it over, which I thought was an interesting choice at the time, especially considering after they had done the whole District 9 and Chappie and all that. Yeah, I feel like something new is definitely always the way now. I think this movie did a great job at really getting us back into the groove with Alien, but now we could definitely go into a whole new direction and see what happens. Yeah, I think Ripley definitely has fought enough aliens for sure. Alien 3 was insane for Ripley, and then of course Alien Resurrection, albeit it wasn't the same Ripley, but still it was Ripley clone, whatever, right? But let's talk about this film right here. So apparently, in a whole thing that Neil Blomkamp was going to do for an Alien movie, was to have Sigourney Weaver return as Ripley. And what you would have seen that is it would have ignored Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. It was going to be a sequel right after Aliens, and ignoring Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. Of course, that's what it says here. So it's going to be like the Halloween movies that David Gordon Green did, where it ignored pretty much all of the sequels. And what you would have seen is the three main stars would have been brought back, which would include, it says, a grown-up Newt, Ripley, as well as Hicks. All of those characters returning in Neil Blomkamp's Alien film. And pretty much it says it envisioned them sort of passing off the torch at the end, and a true ending for Ripley is what I'm reading right here. It doesn't say much more else about what the plot would have been, but that's pretty much what it says it would have done. It would have ignored Alien 3 and Resurrection, and it would have just gone into the direction where we follow Hicks, Newt, and Ripley on some new adventure. So that's pretty much what we were about to get almost, and that was like, I think back then when they before Disney bought Fox, that's what they were gonna do. And then Neil Blomkamp didn't get a chance to go around to do the Alien film because he was doing some other stuff, and so then Fox got bought up by Disney, and now Disney in 2019 announced they were gonna do their own thing, and today we have Alien Romulus with Fede Alvarez. So a very interesting, almost alien film. I'm going to try and dig up some more stuff about it and see what I can find, and I'll do a video on that as well. I feel like we're going to have like 3 or 4 alien videos before next weekend, but hey, we love to talk alien here. So what do you want to see in the next sequel? Do we explore that humanoid engineer at the end again? Like, did it survive? Could it survive? We saw Big Chap survived. A lot of people weren't expecting that, but they brought it back at the beginning of this film. Do they bring back that humanoid thing in the next one? What would y'all want to see? Like I said, I would definitely be open to seeing more of Rain and Andy in an upcoming film. I think that they were interesting, their situation as well, and their relationship was fleshed out well in Romulus enough for me to care to see them again. I think Haley Spaney and I think David Johnson are great actors, so I'd be open to seeing more Rain and Andy if they make a sequel to Romulus. Or would you want to see the films go more into the future and see how sort of things have evolved with the xenomorphs, with the synthetics, what the company's up to now? Because we've already gone into the past with Prometheus. Do we go into the future, like years and years, like 500 years or something like that? I know that with Resurrections we went like 200 years into the future, but do we go more into the future than that and see this whole world how it is? And Fede did say that he thought it is interesting that we only see one aspect of the world, but we don't get to see much more of it other than what the films have shown us already. So see more of this world, but no xenomorph? That's a big controversial thing right there too. Some people have been asking for something other than the xenomorph, but I feel like the xenomorph is just so crucial and such a big part about the Alien film that it would be kind of like crazy if they didn't include it for some reason. Yeah, I really cared for Andy. I was really mad when the other character, I believe his name was Jorn, was just so mean and was just on Andy the whole time. And I was just like, just leave Andy alone. Like, Andy was just minding his business too at times, and the guy would just come up to him and try and punk him. It was just like, damn, what did Andy do? What did Andy really do? Yeah, I definitely feel like they are setting up like something where they could definitely we have to see Andy be brought back, right? Rain promised Andy that she would fix him. We have to see that happen for sure, I think. Yeah, when is the alien gonna get their happy ending? That's for sure too. Like, when is the xenomorph gonna get what they want? For sure, that's something I'm thinking about too. So I would definitely want to see the alien get a good ending as well by the end of it. And you know, if they do decide to go with the next one, Alien versus Predator, I think they're already making another Predator movie. So could we see like Predator movie and then Alien versus Predator and then lead into another Alien film? I don't know. I'm open for it. I'm open for anything really. If they're doing it right and they love it, I'm open for that. Yeah, when Andy was upgraded, it was funny when he was just like just talking differently, acting differently, and Rain was like, what is going on? I thought that was great acting from David Johnson. I really like those scenes a lot. But yeah, we got a ton of things to still discuss with this film. I do want to talk about the whole thing with people not really liking some of the callbacks that the movie had from other Alien films. I'm curious to know how y'all felt about those. I feel like the movie just was trying to like appease everybody, and I don't know, they didn't bother me that much that they had like little lines and callbacks and shots that were reminiscent of Alien and Aliens, but I see a lot of people didn't like that at all, and it's kind of crazy, right? Because I feel like So many people really wanted that since Prometheus, and they decided to do it, and now people don't like it. So I don't know if just the change in the times and all of that, but I don't know. I didn't think it was that distracted. Well, appreciate you, Clearly Entertainment, from watching our videos and stuff like that. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, we got a ton more videos to come too. So really appreciate you being here and showing support to the channel all this time. And thank you. But yeah, I really do love what they did with this new movie here. Like I said, it's a movie that has so much going on for it, especially in its third act. It really does something different than the other films, and it wants to set out on its own path, is what I love to see from it, because this new planet that they're going to explore, I'm curious to see what do we find on this new planet. Is it really the utopia that Rain thinks it's going to be? It takes her 9 years to get there. So in those 9 years, does something else happen to this planet? Imagine Andy and Rain go to this new planet. They show up. They think it's going to be great. Boom. Xenomorphs right there. Or the humanoid thing. I almost like bumped into my mic down. That would be an interesting take right there, right? This utopia that they clearly think is going to be there might not be there at all. And I would be interested to see too if they want to sort of tie together to the video games as well, if there's going to be something else there as well, because there is that new video game that's coming out from Alien. Let me look up that video game real quick, because I think it should be coming out in December. So let's see what this new video game is. So the new video game that's going to be coming out, if I could find it. Actually, I can't. Oh, so it's going to be Alien Rogue Incursion, I believe. That's the name of the game. Or I think it's like a DLC of sorts. So Alien Rogue Incursion, it says it is an upcoming VR game for PlayStation 5 and Microsoft Windows. Let's see what it says, if there's anything about what it's about and all of that, because I'm curious if they're going to try and put anything into this. So it says that there is a skin from Alien Romulus on there when it gets released, and it says you follow Zula Hendricks, who is trying to save her comrade. So the whole thing is infested with xenomorphs, it said. So that's all we know right there. So I don't know if that's going to connect or not, or what's going to happen there for sure. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing Kay Spaney return. I think she did a great job. I know a lot of people didn't really like her performance and felt it was too much like Ripley, but I just don't know how much more different she could have played this character, or what else she could have done here differently, because I feel like anything's gonna feel like a person on the ship trying to rescue her friends, and she has a gun. It's like I just don't know what else people want from her as well. I think she played a very different character from Ripley too at points, a little bit less experience and all of that, and more of a scrappy type of character was what Rain was compared to Ripley. So I thought it was different in that aspect for sure. I definitely do agree that they did put enough of the things in there, of the Easter eggs and from the past, where it didn't feel too much either. Yeah, I would definitely be open to seeing that side, the Colonial Marines and all of that, and that aspect of this. I think that we have seen a lot of the xenomorph. I do appreciate seeing the xenomorph, but I think that them introducing the monster at the end of this film has me excited to see what else they could come up with in this world, right? Like, we could get a xenomorph here and there. I'm cool with that, but then show us something like insane. Like the engineers in Prometheus, they were kind of scary, especially the one that pops up and just grabs David. That was terrifying seeing on the big screen, just wondering what was going to come on. Yeah, more human hybrids would definitely be interesting and scary. That thing was just insane, especially how it kept morphing and morphing as they went. it gave the best scare for sure for me in the theater. Somebody was just screaming when that part happened at the end when Rain and the thing are just going at it. I thought that was so dope as well when she put on the spacesuit. It just gave me some of those vibes from the video game. The engineer coming back at some point too would make sense for me. Some people didn't like the Prometheus things added on, but I do like Prometheus. Yeah, she definitely did have the Ripley like callbacks, like when she was holding the gun, and especially when she came out of the elevator, right? And you had that smoke effect and the atmosphere built. It was just like aliens. I know for sure people didn't like that, but I thought it was a cool little callback to Ripley. And it's always great to give those flowers again, right? Yeah, I didn't expect that thing to be as tall as it was. Like when it first came out of K and it was in that egg, I was thinking it was going to be like the size of a face hugger, and that's all it was going to be. And it was going to be crawling around. And then when you saw that Rain went down to try and get it, and it was gone, and it showed up, and it was this tall thing, I was just like, okay, that's not going to be as easy as I thought, because I thought that Rain was just going to have to chug it out or something like that. But nope, that thing got huge quick. And when it was going up to K, I was just like, that's it. That's it for K. I thought K was actually going to make it to the next film, but it looked like it wasn't for sure. So that thing was definitely insane. It was terrifying. And, it definitely did the job for sure, I think. Yeah, I think so too, Joseph, that people did go into that expecting the xenomorph and all of that, but I loved it so much that it was an original origin to the whole universe and really showcase more of Ripley, what he has in his mind when it comes Ridley, what he has in his mind when it comes to this universe and expanding it more. Yeah, the footprints. I was wondering what this thing was going to look like when I saw those footprints. They were huge. They looked like reptiles and all of this. Yeah, I did see that it did grow when it started feeding on the mother, and I was just like, that is some of the creepiest and gnarliest things I've seen in this franchise, honestly. When it was just holding Kay and it's like this humanoid thing of sorts, that was definitely so eerie as well. Yeah, that was a whole thing like how we saw in Prometheus for sure. Yeah, the face does look like the engineer, right? Like when you see it, at first I thought it was more like a human, and I did say in the video it was like a human and all of that, but then I saw somebody put a picture of it, and I was like, oh, this is more like the engineer for sure. So I'm going to be talking about that in my theory video of where they could go next with the franchise next week, because I really think that this thing has the capabilities of turning even crazier. I was just like, what is this thing gonna like end up being or looking like, right? If Rain had given it enough time to evolve more, I think this thing was gonna turn into something more horrific for sure. So I'm curious to see if in the next film that's something they want to explore and see what this thing could potentially become. Imagine this thing becomes like some queen or ruler of sorts as well, or king, and it's reminiscent to the Queen and Aliens. That's what I was thinking was going to be the setup here, that this was going to be a new being of sorts. Um, yeah, when it was eating the mother, I was just like, what? It was just like feeding off her like some vampire hybrid creature of sorts, and it just got even bigger than that prior. Yeah, it did keep smiling for sure, and that's what made it even creepy and eerie. When I was walking towards Rain, it was just had this big smile on it. At the end, though, it wasn't smiling so much, but it was so creepy when it like screamed into the camera and it got right up into her helmet, and it was just trying to crack it open. I was just like, Rain's done. That's it. Everybody's gone. Thanks for coming. Right. Almost. I keep hitting the mic. Yeah, it was like it looked like it was going to more eat from her, but it definitely was draining her whole for sure. Like completely taking all of the life form out of her. That was like insane. That setup, that shot. And I feel like they kind of cut it a little bit more than what they were trying to originally do with it, right? That's what I was thinking as well. Yeah, goosebumps for sure from the film. This is definitely a film that gave me goosebumps throughout. And I will say that the cast, I think here, did a great job. Everybody played their role. I do think that some characters weren't given enough time to really develop, but I think that it was enough to have Andy and Rain's story in there. Like, that was just enough for me for sure. Yeah, the vase was there from Prometheus too. They really did a great job at almost taking little bits from all of the films and putting it in here as well. And it really is one that really was trying to showcase the whole Prometheus story coming full circle, right? With the black goo and all of that. And the new android Rook here, who was sort of giving me David vibes as well, but more like a corporate David, where David more did whatever he wanted to because he was like intrigued and he had this desire to create and was curious about all of these things. Rook was more like, I need to get the company this information. I need the company to succeed, and that's all I'm going to do right here. That's all I care about. These humans, whatever, Andy, they're just collateral, and I'm going to complete the mission here because we know that they weren't able to complete the mission. Yeah, it was some goo coming out of her. Now remember, you're saying, there was some goo when she was like putting her hand and she was just like seeing this black goo on her. So that creature was definitely feeding off of this goo, which I think was just in her bloodstream at this point after she had injected herself. I was just like, don't do it. And then she does it when Rain tells her, don't do that, don't do it. And she did it. I was just like, oh, what's about to happen? I thought that she herself was going to become like some new creature, but I didn't expect the baby to become the creature. Like, I expected her to maybe start to become the creature and then the baby itself would be another creature, but I didn't expect like just the baby was going to be the creature for sure. Like, that threw me off when I saw that thing coming out. Like I said, it was just coming out of the egg and it was just this like human face on it. It was just so creepy, honestly. And then it fell. I was like, what? Consumer 114 says, what's it, all the good reviews? Movie was mediocre at best. Hey, I've seen that a lot too, and you know, like I said at the beginning of the video, some people hate the movie, hate it. Some people think it's okay, and some people think that it's whatever and they don't care about it, and some people loved it. It's an interesting thing with this movie. It's all over the place, everything I'm seeing, but everybody's good with their opinion, and I think everybody has valid points as well. Yeah, when I saw that the rat had the monster coming out of it, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen to Kay. And I was just like, it's over for Rain and for Andy on that ship for sure. Yeah, if Kay was surviving, I do wonder where she would go, right? If she had survived that whole ordeal with the baby and all that, and then it turning into whatever weird thing it was. I said what in the Splice because it did remind me of like the creature in Splice. But I wonder if Kay herself would become something like a creature of sorts. Yeah, when I saw what happened to the rat, I thought that was it too. Like, that's gonna be what happens to Kay. Yeah, Elizabeth Shaw had like the same fate, right? Like, she had the in Prometheus, right? It was her partner that had it, and then ultimately she got pregnant from him, and then she got it and all of that, and she had like that squid thing, which is still one of the craziest scenes in the franchise when she's on the bed and she's trying to take out the creature out of her. Man, that was so like crazy, especially back then. I just rewatched that scene like yesterday because I was just going through the franchise and looking through all of the like iconic scenes, just getting myself hyped for the Alien videos I wanted to do. And it's still one of the craziest scenes, right up there with the first chest burster in the first film. Like, that was just wild when I first saw that movie, Alien as well, and saw that and was just like, oh man. Like, I remember still watching that like years and years ago when I was young, and I was just like, what? When that thing came out of the man, and I was just like, yeah, that is insane for sure. So I'm curious. So yeah, like everybody in here, what did y'all think of Alien? I'm gonna put up uh, a poll up here and see, because I am like just like trying to see where everybody's at, and yeah, so I'm gonna put a little poll here. I've never done a poll really, so let's see if I can put it up good. So yeah, I'm just curious because I'm doing a video on this pretty soon, and let's see what everybody thinks about it, right? Consumer says first 20 minutes was okay, then it turned into a little rehash of all the past movies, and the line repeats of the movies was cringe. So I do think that they did overdo it with that too as well. They did do a lot of things that were done in the previous movies, And I did mention it. I don't know if I said it in my review, but I did say it in my short I did, where I said that this was kind of like they said, let's Force Awakens it, right? Let's Force Awakens it. Let's bring back all these things, these little pieces from the previous movies people liked, and let's put it into this Alien film now that we're trying to reboot again. And did they overdo it? Yeah, I think that there were some lines where you were just like, oh, okay, okay. But I still think that for the most part, that was more of the studio wanted that because they were scared after Prometheus and after Covenant, where people weren't exactly pleased with where the went with it and wanted something that felt more traditional, I guess you could say. Um, but I did like the third act, though. I think the third act is more Feta showing his flair and what he wants to do with it. And I know some people hated the third act, but they liked the callbacks to the original film. So that's what I'm saying. Like, people are all over with this, and I love it. I love seeing this because it brings a lot of conversation, right? Because I think a lot of people, like, I've seen this takes. These are the takes I've seen. I've seen people say they love the callbacks to the original film and that it feels like Alien and Aliens mixed together, but they hated the third act because it felt so different from the other ones. I see people saying they love the third act because it's different, it's something new, but they hated the first two thirds because it's the same old thing. And then, it's just all over the place with these takes, which is great. Everybody's entitled to them, and I think the studio seeing this and seeing all these different takes will have them think a little bit harder about what they should do next. I don't think that they have to do rehashes or they have to do callbacks anymore because I think that they started the fire. Now they can go wherever they want with it. Yeah, I would definitely love to see Rain, and I would definitely love to see also Andy in the future. Andy was so great in this. Like, I was so amazed by David Johnson. I've only seen David Johnson in Rye Lane. Some people tell me that he's in a show called Industry, which I haven't seen. I believe it's on HBO, but he was great in this. Yeah, I'm going to try and watch it again as well. I did enjoy it a lot. I watched it in IMAX, which was great. And it was a great crowd as well. Usually with crowds you get scared, right, that they're going to be like really loud and all of that. But with this one, they were great. They were a great crowd. That's always a good thing to see a movie with a good crowd as well. Yeah, you can definitely see where the studios put their hands in the film, where they wanted these callbacks and these rehashes of the other films to sort of be safe. But then you can tell where Fed put his own flair into it, where he added like alien isolation things into it. That third act, which was just wild. And you can tell that Fede wanted to do more of that, but he definitely has to get the studio to first get like their things going. And they played it super, super safe because you could almost say that this is like a remake-ish of sorts of Alien and Aliens, but it still has Fede's flair. So I don't know. I think that that's definitely what they were trying to do for sure. Yeah, I definitely have it at a high 8 as well, for sure. The Xenomorph, the Scorch one, yeah. They were playing us with that one, right? It was all over the marketing, the Scorch Xenomorph. It was all over the trailers, the teasers, all of that. And we finally got to it. And it was just like, it was like peeking around. And it was like looking at Rain. And then it ultimately ended up grabbing her, which I thought was such a dope scene, regardless of it all. It was just very interesting seeing that. I thought that was a crazy scene when Rain's like at the top of the elevator shaft. And then you just see her coming down. And then the tail just whips in, grabs Rain, and then you get that iconic scene where Rain's like holding onto the ladder and the Xenomorph's coming to her face. I thought that was such a great dope shot as well. Really love that. I For an IMAX cinema experience, I would definitely say for me, I like to sit right in the middle-ish, top middle. That way you get the full screen and you're not like looking up if you're too far down there. And then I think when you're too all the way at the top, you're more looking down. So top middle is always great for me, for sure. I always liked that part of the cinema to sit there. Or sometimes I do sit all the way at the top. That's like my second choice. But depending on the theater, sometimes when you sit all the way at the top, you're like looking down. So I don't know. I like the top middle though, for sure. Yeah, I like Fede's work. Like I said, I even like the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movie he did, even though I do like David Fincher's more, but I still think he did great with it. Don't Breathe was great. I really also liked his Evil Dead remake, so yeah. Uh, yeah, I mean, that is a thing. What consumers saying is movies do play it safe a lot nowadays, especially I think after the whole thing with the movies kind of like having the strikes and all of that, and the way that the industry has shifted. I do see the studios wanting to be more safe, and I see that for the foreseeable future as well. They're going to start to do that. The original idea is hard to come out now. We see it's mainly IPs, and I hope that that does change in the future because there's so many talented people that I know have so many great ideas, but they don't really get a good run with them, right? But there's still some great indie flicks coming out that I think are great. Strange Darling is a film that comes out next week, and I think that's one of the best original ideas and films I've seen like in the last like 3 4 years. So that's definitely still they're trying to get there, but for the most part, big studios are going to play it safe right now, and that's what they did with Romulus. They wanted to Force Awakens it, like I said. They wanted to get everybody who loved the originals to come back, but I gotta give credit Fede. He did get his flair at the end in there with that third act, and I still enjoy the movie a lot. And I know a lot of people didn't enjoy it, and that's fair as well. Yeah, I think that this movie is going to do great at the box office. So when I was reading box office numbers yesterday with the studios and what the people at like the big trades think, this movie's projected to go to like 75 million plus opening weekend, and I think its budget was like 80 million, so it's for sure making the budget back this weekend, and then after that profits. And that would definitely mean that we get a sequel for sure once that movie does reach a certain criteria, which I think that we'll get a sequel announcement before the end of the year for sure. Like I would definitely see that one for sure. Yeah, I'm curious what Fede would do with a sequel, right, to Romulus. It sounds like he's always wanted to make an alien film because in the interview I was reading with him, where he was talking about the alien isolation things he wanted to put into it, he said that he always wanted to do an alien film. When he was doing Don't Breathe, I believe, he was playing the alien isolation game, and he was just hoping to finally get a chance to do an alien film. And here he is. He has an alien film out. I would definitely be surprised if he doesn't want to jump on a sequel already. So, you ask, would you rather have a sequel to this or let Ridley finish his David trilogy and tie it back to the original? I want both. I want both. Now, the question is, which one do I want first? I would definitely be okay. This is my scenario that I would be okay with. And this is for me reading the deadline thing where they say that Fede wants to do an Alien vs. Predator movie with the director of Prey, Trachtenberg. I would be cool with having the next film be the Ridley Scott trilogy finale to the Prometheus David story. Then we get the Alien vs. Predator from Fede, and then we get the next film in the sequel to Romulus from Fede as well. That's how I would want it, but I want all of that, and I want it like like 5 6 years, all that together, which is crazy, right? But yeah, I'm open to all of that as well. Yeah, I defended. I like I said, I think he's definitely coming back for the sequel. There's no way that he wanted to have all of these. Like I said, there's no way he wanted to do an alien film and we'll just do one and done it. Right? I feel like he wants to do it. I saw a video where Ridley Scott said that he wanted Fede to do it too, like the Alien film. He said that, of course, it would be Fede who did the next Alien because he's somebody who's been doing this for a bit and he's proven himself. So I could definitely see Ridley too as well wanting Fede to continue. Oh, so I've only watched it once. Did you like it again the second time more, or were you just the same after you watched it again? Ryan Johnson doing the sequel. What do y'all think about that? I know a lot of people feel a certain way about Force Awakens and what Ryan Johnson did. So I'm curious. What if we get a Ryan Johnson like sequel where it completely like does its own thing? What it compared to what Romulus did, right? Yeah, knowing the studio, 20th Century, which of course it's Disney, and like with Marvel movies, we know we've heard directors say that you usually just do what the studio's telling you, or if you're James Gunn, you can do your thing. But most of the time, when these directors come into these movies, they have a book they have to follow pretty much that's laid out how this film is going to be, what it's going to feel, and all of that. And you can put little tidbits of yourself in there if you can. With this film, Alien being such a huge franchise, you know the studio wanted something done where it was going to be reminiscent to Alien and Aliens, and then they let Fede have the final act, right? That's how I felt this movie felt to me. Uh, yeah, I would definitely love to see what Ridley wants to do next, of course, as well with that David trilogy. I was reading a little bit more about what he was talking about when he was doing it, and talking about sort of how religion and science came into play with Prometheus. And I'm interested in seeing where he wanted to really finally take that trilogy as well. Yeah, a real sequel to Prometheus, I'd be open for that as well. Yeah, I really love how they're building out this world, this lore, this galaxy and universe, and I'm interested in seeing more of it, really. I think the xenomorphs are just like the tip of the iceberg. I feel like there's more to explore. I mean, Prometheus kind of showed us that. The synthetics are interesting. Andy was great, and I'm interested in seeing more synthetics in the future as well. Oh, 40X. I want to see it in 40. The last movie I watched in 40X was actually a chapter 2 years ago, and that was still fun for a horror film in 40X. So I could only imagine an action film like this one in 40X with the scares and all of that added. I would definitely love to see that in 40X for sure. I saw the videos of people watching Twisters in 40X, and I watched Twisters twice, and I was just like, I should have seen it in 40X, but it's kind of hard to find 40X because when I was gonna plan to watch Twisters in 40X, it was already gone because Deadpool and Wolverine had come out, and then that took over 40X. But I believe in 2 weeks or a week from now, they're gonna bring back Twisters in 40X. So definitely have to watch another movie in 40X. It's been years. Like I said, Chapter 2 was the last movie I watched in 40X. But yeah, I'm open. Yeah, so like I said, I think Alien Romulus, to me, I liked it a lot. I know a lot of people really hated the callbacks. They thought it was just the same old things. And I'm curious to see what they would have done if they didn't have to put all those callbacks and rehashes and things from other films, right? What Fede wanted to plan from the beginning. Yeah, so many people. I'm interested in seeing the Covenant and the Prometheus talk, because a lot of people who love Prometheus hated Covenant. A lot of people who loved Covenant hated Prometheus, and there's some also where I see that they have like Prometheus at number one and Covenant at number one, or some people have Covenant number one, Prometheus like dead last. So it's very interesting. All the Alien ranking that I've seen on timelines on social media and all of that, everybody's different. Like, so many people have it all over the place. Yeah, 40X is kind of hard to find around. It's like a couple of theaters that only really have it. I think some are starting to add like some motion to the seats and stuff like that, but I think the 40X is the one where you get like the wind, the water, and the seats really move a lot. But it's just something that's starting to really come up for sure. But really appreciate everybody who's listening. I try to do as many of these discussions as I can live and things like that. So if you're listening, really appreciate you. Subscribe if you haven't already. We definitely have a ton more to talk about Alien. Like I said, I'm going to be discussing the Alien versus Predator movie that Fede wants to do with the director of Prey. I do want to do my Alien ranking video before the weekend ends. And I do want to have an Alien Romulus sequel theory video, which will be coming out soon. Probably all those videos before Tuesday for sure. So really appreciate everybody. Make sure you subscribe as well. So you said that Covenant. Well, I think 40X isn't that new, but I think it's starting to expand a little bit more. but I think like some major cities like only have like maybe one or two theaters that might play it, and then the show times are kind of like scattered throughout the day, so it's kind of hard to get to them as well. I see that. So yeah, I think Covenant was like a direct like call to people who didn't like Prometheus going too far out and exploring these radical, crazy ideas and not really showing the xenomorph. So in Covenant, the studio was like, okay, let's bring back the xenomorph. Let's do this like the other Alien films. So yeah, I do agree. Prometheus, I do really like a lot, for sure. So yeah, appreciate you watching it for the first time and loving it, Benoit. Hope I'm pronouncing the name right as well. My thoughts on the design of the final hybrid alien was I loved it. It was so creepy and scary, honestly. Like, it just looked insane right when it was born, right? And it was in that egg, and then it was coming out, and it was just like the human head and all of that. It was just creepy and weird, and I expected it. I said it earlier. I expected it to be like this small little thing, like a face hugger only. When it was huge and tall, and Rain was just like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" I was like, "I have no clue how you're getting out of this." It was insane. But I have seen that it does look a little weird. I can definitely say as well. So yeah, I agree. I'm not too sure, but I think it's going to be hard to please everybody. That's why I think that the Alien Romulus film is, I like, for me, I loved it. And then I see online some people hated it. And, it gets crazier because some people hate it for different reasons. So you have you have two people who hate it. You have somebody who hates it because they hated the first 2/3 of it. And then you have somebody who hated the last third of it, and it is something that is very, very crazy to see, right? Like, two people hate it, but they hate it for different reasons, and they love it for different reasons too. So it's just all over the place. Oh, I'm glad I was able to say it right. I didn't want to say it wrong, so that's good that I said it right. Favorite movie of 2024. So I do have a letterbox, and I have a ranking right now, and I do go through a thing where I may get bias from things, but I really think my favorite movie so far is, I watch a lot of horror, and for me right now, I don't know, it has to be The First Omen. I'm gonna do my ranking again. I do it all the time at the end of the month, but Alien Romulus got pretty high for me. I really love the film, but I love horror a lot, so for me, The First Omen. I just really loved, like, for some reason, like supernatural things and things like that, and that's top of the list for me. But I do have Romulus at the top of my like top 12 of the year as well. But yeah, I definitely try and see if I can post my letterbox on here. That's where I do my rankings. I'm not usually a lot on Letterbox. I use it mainly just to journal the films I watch, and then when I'm able to do videos, that way it's easier for me to go back to it. But yeah, so at the top of my list, I do have. Let me take a screenshot of it, and y'all can see. Yeah, my letterbox is just Culture Elixir, just like the channel as well. I do want to use it more. I just mainly use it for logging and making lists. That way I can have these videos and all of that. Let's see, but I am planning to use it a little bit more as well. So I took a screenshot of like my list of top films right now. Let me see if I can take it again. Sometimes I take a screenshot and then I can't find it. Okay, so I found it right here. But yeah, I got a ton of videos coming. I think I'll be on here for like 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to be editing the videos I'm uploading tomorrow, which is my Alien ranking, as well as Fede's Alien versus Predator idea, which I was reading the headline before I got on the live, so I'll be talking about that as well. So let me put the letterbox ranking I have right now so y'all can see that. So let me Let me see. Okay, so I think we got it good here. Okay. The computer doesn't want to cooperate sometimes. All right. So this is my ranking right now. It's pretty all over the place. I am planning on doing it differently. Y'all see I have Romulus at the top right now, but I'm going to watch it again and see where it ranks. I just liked it a lot. I'm telling you, as a fan of the game, I was very much so loving this one right here. Yeah, like I said, some people, like Bosco says, I thought the movie was perfect till that hybrid came out. Most people hated the hybrid, and some people loved the hybrid. That's all they loved about the film. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's interesting. Some people hated the first 2/3. Other people hated the last third act. I'm curious, too, how it would look once it was fully grown and got all the nutrients it needed, right? Yeah, like Kaiser says, a lot of people hated the callbacks, and totally valid. I think that there was a lot of callbacks here, especially if you're somebody who seen all the films and most recently seen the films. I can see how that would be something that you're just like, oh my god, one more line from the series, come on, right? But I don't know, I just felt different about it because I haven't I don't know, I just was okay with it. Like, I think I enjoyed more of the things I enjoyed than some of the things I didn't enjoy, and that kind of like overshadowed it. I'm just weird when I'm watching a film. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking that they want to do more spin-offs, and I think that Fede wants that hybrid to become a thing for sure. And that's what I think is definitely something that's going to be happening. You know, that's what I was thinking too. I said earlier that what if a xenomorph was on that planet that Andy and Rain are going to? What if David's there? Like you're saying, that would be crazy, especially if they have the goo and all that with them. That would be crazy. Appreciate you. Yeah, that's my ranking. You know, I don't know. I'm not trying to. This is not my best. Like, this is not me. This is not my ranking for best films of the year, right? Because I do have two different rankings. I'm gonna be making a best of the year ranking pretty soon. These are like personal favorites, like my favorite films of the year, like, because I usually like to separate like that, right? Yeah, Trap is in my. I like Trap. I'm guilty. A lot of people hate Trap, I know, and I got a lot of flack on it on my review and on my Ending Explained, but a lot of people hated Trap. But that's cool. That's cool. I can see why people don't like Trap, but for me, for like the things I like to see in movies, I like Trap a lot. But yeah, this is more like my ranking of my personal favorites. Like, if I were to put a ranking of best movies, like, that I think are great in writing, in a technical standpoint, things like that, acting, this would look different for sure. Like, I would have Sing Sing at the top for sure. Like, Sing Sing would be my number one film, and then I feel like I would put Robot Dreams maybe after it, and then after that, I don't know, I gotta think about it. But this is like my ranking of personal favorites. Like, these are films I loved, films I can rewatch, films that I just think are great. Like, this is that ranking right here. Clearly Entertainment, you like Trap too? Yes. I don't know, I love M. Night. I've defended Old. I've defended Knock at the Cabin. To an extent, I can say that I like some of the shots in Lady of the Water as well. I think that M. Night is one of my favorite directors visually as well. So I don't know. I like M. Night. I like his humor and all of that. And I get it. Some people don't like it, and that's cool. And I get why too. You know, I'm not going to be here and say, you're wrong. You're wrong. Like, I'm not going to make anybody change their mind on anything. I like hearing people's opinions on it. Yeah, I would definitely want them to let Fede do what he needs to do and just go crazy with the next Alien film. Just as crazy as he was going in this third act. Crank it up a notch and get it even crazier for sure. Yeah, I just watched Old. I didn't watch it when it first came out. I watched it, I think, last year. I think right before I was going to watch Knock at the Cabin. And I was just like, whoa. Like, this was the movie everybody was hating on when it came out in 2021. I didn't think it was bad like that at all. I really enjoyed aspects of it for sure. You know, I was thinking that when it was first born too, that it was going to turn into like the alien queen and it would lead directly into aliens, right? Like that's what I was thinking was going to happen. But then it turns into a whole different thing, right? It turns into something like I was not expecting at all or thinking about at all. So yeah, I was very curious about that as well. But yeah, this is definitely a great live we did right here. I enjoyed it talking to everybody. I do want to do more in the future. I am planning to put lives into the schedule for videos as well. Maybe do 1 or 2 lives a week. And I will be watching a couple of movies this weekend as well. And I will be having reviews for you next week. But in the meantime, this weekend, it's going to be all Alien. So I will have the Alien ranking video coming out tomorrow. I will have the Alien sequel theories on Monday. And then I think on Sunday, we could do maybe another live. Probably. We'll try and see if we can schedule it, or I don't know what'd be the best time. I'll put a poll on the community and see what more people think would be better for a time for a live. But yeah, 3 or 4 more Alien videos before Monday for sure. Next week we are seeing Transformers 1 at a screening, which is a upcoming anime Transformers movie, which I'm kind of curious about because a lot of people are saying it's good. So we'll see. But really appreciate everybody who came in as well. Yeah, it definitely did look like a little engineered, the hybrid for sure, which was very creepy at the same time. But anyways, I really appreciate everybody who came. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. We got a ton of videos coming for you, like 3 or 4 before Monday. I hope everybody has a good night. Hope everybody who enjoyed Alien enjoyed it. If you hated Alien, I'm sorry. Your criticism is valid as well, and I'd love to hear it. Go put it over there on the review or the spoiler talk. I'm curious to see why you hated it as well. But I'll see all of you next time. Follow us on the YouTube channel, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. We have our website as well, www.culturelixir.com, where we post articles on all the things that are coming out, as well as our Instagram at It's Culture Elixir. And I'll see y'all next time. I got some videos coming out tomorrow, so stay tuned. As always, stay safe and stay positive, y'all.